Well, I am so happy to be back at Rama here in Venice. It is one of my favorite places to stop along the way and check out the energy and the activity. And so thankful for Guru Jagat, who runs this place, who founded this place, to have a chance to offer this book signing, making contact. Where's this book? To the world. And then thank everyone for being here, along with my guests, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, and of course, Kimberly, Meredith. But before we get started, I want to do a little opening ceremony with Stephen Golden Tiger. I get all those golden people mixed up. Golden Tiger. And, you know, gongs are very popular at this place. I have an incredible gong there. But Stephen brought his own gong, and we'll just kind of set the tone with that. So anything you want to say, Stephen? A little background?
Well, I have an extensive background in shamanism, and it is a treasure to walk in here because I probably do almost all these practices on the walls here, so it's really, really a blessing to walk in here. It is amazing because I'll guarantee you, you are all here because you're supposed to be here. That's just how these things work. So my invitation for you is to park whatever you believe outside the door. Just be present. And hopefully my lineage and the things I carry will do several things. One is it'll open up your divine nature. Number two, to clear all the stuff out, because we need an open mind for what beautiful things these people are going to have to share. So these things, these gongs, these metal instruments, have a beautiful power to, you might say, clear the house. That's why they hang in temples, because the negative energies don't like the sound of this. So all you got to do is just be present. That's it.
We're going to do that.
So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay. Do you want them to close their eyes?
You close your eyes, open eyes. Whatever it is, it's relaxing to you. There is no agenda, no story. Just be present.
Okay. Hey, we'll just do like 5 minutes or something like that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I don't think anything needs to be said after that. I appreciate that. But thank you all. That kind of changes the mood to help me drop in and realize we are at the threshold of a really sacred moment in time where the whole planet is about to wake up to these new realities that life is an emergent property of creation. It is abundant. It is everywhere. And what we thought was just a freak of nature, human existence and intelligence, is really part of a big cosmic mind. We're part of a greater mind. And that's one of the reasons I invited my good friends, doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak, to join me here, because they tap into a greater cosmology of higher level of existence. And that's also why I asked Kimberly Meredith, who is really responsible for all of us being here today. I'll tell you a little story. But first, let me see. Dr. Hurtak, Desiree, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, we're very honored to be here. This is a sacred moment in human history. Our hope would be that the higher-ups in the American government, particularly the scientists behind the scene, would put the cards on the table and simply say, we're not alone in the universe. This was known to the ancient Sanskrit tradition, the ancient Near Eastern scriptures, and of course the indigenous cultures. And I'm wearing a teaching belt from the Xavante Nation of Brazil, where Desiree and I represent as honorary chiefs, their tradition of contact with the star nations. All of the elders that we have spoken to in the last 2 years have said that the star nations are coming back because Mother Earth is crying, and we must affirm a greater love and compassion and wisdom, a triplet of devotion. And so tonight we honor our friends throughout the world, and of course this is being recorded for many of the academy centers and spiritual centers throughout the world to celebrate what we call the gathering or the unity.
And we're really here, of course, to honor Alan Steinfeld's new book called Making Contact. And hopefully it could not come at a better time, because by June 24th, supposedly, and it's a big question mark still, the government will release some information about extraterrestrial contact. So we're all on edge this week, and that's why you've been seeing so much in the news media. Even ESPN, the sports station, was talking about UFOs, because this is something that's supposed to come out. We don't know if it will, but everyone should be watching right now.
But everyone's talking about making contact. I mean, this is our moment. And Victoria, of course, has been working so hard for the past 9-10 years.
She sponsors Contact in the Desert, which is on June 25th to 28th, virtually this year.
And the reason I was making contact with all the people in this book was because I was a part of Contact in the Desert, which really is the premier event. So watch it online, go to contactinthedesert.com, and just see what 60, 70 speakers and panels and special events that are tuned right into this time. So this is a time of celebration for us Earthlings, because we're finding out we're not alone. We've never been alone, and none of us ever thought we were alone. So that's a big moment in history. But I do want to introduce my good friend Kimberly Meredith, because if it wasn't for her, we would not be sitting here, or I wouldn't be sitting here, and probably none of us would be sitting here. And I'll tell you how it happened. Kimberly had a contract to go see the people at St. Martin's Press, and she was in New York, and she didn't know. She asked me to go with her because I live there, and she said, would you come downtown to show me how to get into the building and to show her around, because she's from Sherman Oaks, right? and it's okay. It's fine. But you know, it was so strange. So we're there, downtown Broadway, Lower Broadway, and I don't think I've ever told you this story before. And we're going through the revolving door, and I think Kimberly goes in next. And there was this guy in the lobby, so we're outside, and there's a guy in the lobby who looks sort of like Saint Germain, with the short hair and the beard, a little gray, a little tall, and he's talking to some people. I'm going into the revolving door, and he's now coming out of the revolving door, and he says, perfect timing. It's like, okay, that was like, this guy looked like Changer Man. He says, perfect. So I didn't really expect that much. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to St. Martin's, and Kimberly had this really great meeting with the editor there. And this really beautiful guy who's really a genius in editing and acquiring books. He comes out after giving you the green light, sort of, and Kimberly has this book that's going to be published, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, because of that meeting. And this guy's holding a UFO book. It's called We Are the Arcturians. It's kind of obscure book by Norman Milanovich. And I say, I know that book. And then, you remember at that moment that he felt a presence walk by him, and he says, what's that? And there was no one there, but he says, and then we talked to him about how much I've been researching UFOs and ET contact. So he says, let's go to lunch. Because I said, oh, well, I have this book I've been working on. He goes, so at lunch, he goes, no, I don't want you to write that book. I want you to write this book. But anyway, talk about that first moment there and what it was like and, you know, coming in and the magic of that moment. Can you talk about that?
Sure. The magic of
just
after that I came out of the meeting
Yes.
and when...
Well, the magic of your meeting, too.
Oh. That trip was very surreal, actually, because I have a literary agent, and the literary agent, the whole feeling of me writing this book was channeled. So this book is just channeled text, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension. And when I was going out to visit you in New York, we were doing an event and an expo. And before I left, I didn't have any meetings set up. And I had asked my agent, I said, I'm going to New York, and I heard, because I'm a trans channel and I hear voices, I heard them say, when you go to New York, you're to get an agent.
Oh.
And so when I called my lit agent, I said, can you set up some meetings for me? And he was kind of brushing me off, and he said, okay. I guess I will. So he set up some meetings. But he asked me, what do you think about St. Martin's Press? So when I get a hit, it'll say yes or no. And he named a few of them. And the one I got the biggest hit was St. Martin's Press. So when I got out to New York, I don't want to go alone. So I asked Alan.
That was very nice of you.
And I said, Alan, would you take me, help me to get there? And you said?
I said, I most certainly will.
Yes.
You know,
And-
just getting your foot in the door at St. Martin's, I thought, well,
Yes. And so when we were to go there, the day was rainy and it was cold.
It was.
And I remember feeling sort of not quite myself. But the interview was about me not only bringing my manuscript, they already had the manuscript and they already had read it fully, but it was also about me doing mediumship readings on the editor.
Right.
So Alan was gracious and accommodating and nice and sweet, and we went to the meeting.
Right.
When we walked into the meeting, you sat outside in the waiting room, and I went in to meet the editor.
Right.
And I read the editor, and
Psychic reading, yeah.
psychic reading him across the table. He already had read my full manuscript. He looked at me and he said, this is 2 books, not just one. I said, okay. He said, read me. So I read him. I told him his appendix was gone. He had a bad tooth. He needed a root canal. And I said one of his teeth was missing. And he said, you're right. Everything you're saying is correct. I said, okay. He goes, now I want you to meet the owner of the company.
Yes.
And then I went to meet the owner of the company. I told her husband has a fatal disease, blah, 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 everything that. He said, okay. I said a couple more things about the lady and her family, and she said, yes, you're correct. And that was pretty quick. And then after I walked out of there, I looked at the man, and I don't want to say his name right
We don't
now.
have to say his name, no.
But I said, what do you think? How did I do? He looked at me, he said, you did good. I said, thank you. And I said, do you think it's going to go well for me? And he says, I think so, pretty much. I said, okay. I said, how do you get your feelings about it? He goes, like you, it's either a yes or a no. I said, okay, because one eye says yes, other says no. And as we're walking back towards the hall, I remember looking over at the wall and seeing all of these books, and they were like Dalai Lama and other authors, and I was looking at the books and getting like, my blinking is like God, 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 God. So it was very sort of surreal and kind of different. Then I remember him walking towards you.
Right.
And as he was walking towards you, I remember feeling this chills going through my
Really?
body.
I didn't
And then
know.
I saw you and him and thinking to myself, they're going to work together. And then you guys met together, you guys collided together. And then as we approached the office, there was a little tiny alien sitting on the desk.
There was?
Yeah. There was a little tiny ET.
You mean like a statue? Oh.
There was an extraterrestrial.
No,
yeah.
it was like a toy or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
a toy
okay. I
sitting
thought-
on the desk. And so this is my version of the story.
Okay.
And then as we walked into the office, he said, okay, come in the office, Kimberly and Alan. And we walked in. And then you guys were in the office. And then I was in the office. And then we looked, and there was a little extraterrestrial there. And then you guys were talking. And then I remember you guys were laughing and looking. And I remember thinking, what is going on here? Something is happening. And my guys were blinking. They're going to do something together.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just telling. Well, the
Well, I'm
guys are
glad
telling
you-
the story right now.
Okay, sure.
And then I remember you guys talking, and then we walked out in the hall, and then you guys gave each other cards, and then you said, "We'll meet for lunch." I said, and they said, "Okay." And the guys were going, "Yes, they want this to happen," and this was pre-planned way before I left Sherman Oaks.
It was?
Yes.
You're so good. Wow.
and that's my story.
I didn't know all that story. So I thank you. Wow. And Kimberly is going to tell more of her stories here on Sunday at Rama. She's doing a special event for Rama. But I went out to lunch with this guy, and I said, "Well, I have this great book I want to show you." And I show him my manuscript, and he goes, which is about an old abduction that nobody knows about. But he said, "No, I don't want you to write that book. But I have an idea for you." And he goes, and I said, "Yeah, I know everyone in the UFO field." He says, "Why don't you put together a compilation of all the greatest names and researchers?" And I said, "I could do that very easily." Thanks to Contact in the Desert, of course, because I met these people and we have lunch and hang out. So I said, yes, I could do that. And he gave me a contract. So Kimberly's sort of my agent for setting it up. He liked the idea. He prefers not to go through agents, just so you know. But that's okay. No,
Well,
no, but you need
what
to
happened
get,
with me is I ended up having 2 more publishers added on to that publisher, and my book ended up having a whole other journey. So
That's
I'm
good.
not sure if he doesn't.
No, agents are good because it got us in the door, Kimberly. So anyway, so I took a year, like other people were like watching television for the past year because they couldn't leave their house or apartment. I was working on this book, and it was really the best time.
Amazing.
It was really
Brilliant. You're brilliant and amazing.
No, it was just perfect timing, like Saint Germain said to me. It was perfect timing. So, and then I said, who would be a great person to write the foreword? And my good friend Gina Salvadis works with George Noory, and I said, Gina, and Gina really got me in that door. So it's good to have friends in this business. And so I just want to, I'll just show you a little opening to, I'll just give you a little rundown of the book here. And let me see, do you see this on the screen there? No, okay. And let me see if I can play the sound here. Oh, but that's not changing there. I just want to show the opening to this. There's a little preview trailer for the book. Is it coming up on your screen there? It's what's on my screen is not on your screen. So how do I get that on this screen? Because, well, okay, I'll be right there with you. But so anyway, while you're getting that, the book is a compilation of 11 of the best researchers, writers, experiencers in the field. And it goes from the exoteric, from the external, from the phenomena like the government, what they don't want to tell us, what they, and the hardware, which is the external, to the internal, to consciousness. It's really all about consciousness. It's all about who we are as human beings, really coming into our own new reality, our new time. It's an awakening for the human race that we are not freaks of nature. We're part of something bigger. And it just impacts the meaning of life in a much deeper way, because if we just think this is an accident, if we just think life is arbitrary and has no meaning, then it doesn't give us purpose. But to know that we're part of a bigger plan, a divine plan, that there's a purpose for incarnation, for existence, gives us a destiny to awaken the greater mind, because we're not separate from that consciousness out there. We're a part of this reality of consciousness. And it extends beyond this planet. It extends to so many other realms. So I'll play this, let me see. Oh, I got this quote from Deepak Chopra. We cannot separate the Earth from its greater cosmic environment. What is needed is a new story, and Alan Steinfeld, making contact is part of that story. And and Deepak doesn't buy any of this stuff, but I said, Deepak, because he says it's all consciousness, and what does it matter because what's here is everywhere. I said, no, Deepak, consciousness is about to take a quantum leap into something else. So what we're calling consciousness is a very small part of the greater fragment of a total reality. So Deepak gave me this quote. Even though he's not totally into this, he was nice enough because people respect him, and I respect him because he is a really great mind, and he's been very compassionate and really is at the forefront of the evolution of what we're all about. But the alien thing, the ET thing, was sort of new, and he's integrating that into a new story. So this is the opening trailer to my book event.
From deep, deep in outer space to planet Earth to the red rocks of Sidhu comes a time, an event, a place, a message of making contact.
There is no better time for a book like Making Contact. I'm George Noory, host of the national radio show Coast to Coast AM. Alan Steinfeld has put together a well-conceived collection of writings that covers it all. This is a book most needed at this time because Making Contact presents the opportunity for us to prepare to meet advanced civilizations. Someday, somehow in the future, the conflicts that have plagued our species for eons will come to an end. And by making contact, we will take our rightful place among the stars.
That's George. Thank you. So that opens the book, and then I have an essay by Nick Pope, who worked for the Ministry of Defense. And the first line of that book, he says, I am the villain of this book because I don't want to reveal the secret. So, but what that does is start a narrative. So the narrative goes from that external secrets and hardware to, and it goes to Grant Cameron, who says, if you see a UFO, you were meant to see it. You are part of the phenomenon. Come on in, Lauren. Lauren Francesca, star of Facebook and her friends. And her dog, George, of course. Come on in, have a seat. Thanks for coming. So Grant, and then we have the third chapter, which really goes into this mixing of science, consciousness, and the evolution of humanity by the Hurtaks. You want to talk about your part in the book, please?
Well, we are honored to be part of this amazing story. We pick up where others leave off by showing that we are at a time of accelerating human consciousness, of going from what we call the third dimension to the fifth dimension, beyond the five senses, where we will not only see these artifacts of other technologies, but we will actually engage in personal conversation with the cosmic others, which includes not only the extraterrestrials, but the extracelestials, who are more of the angelic, spiritual, as well as the ultra-terrestrials, who represent really the great masters, the avatars, the thinkers that have come down through the centuries, who represent the higher wisdom of all of the great planetary traditions. As some of you know, part of our work has been based upon my work of actual contact with the higher worlds, where I was taken into the higher worlds for 2 days. And at that end of that experience, I met with several of the astronauts, one of which was Gordy Cooper, who wrote this book, Leap of Faith. He was the Mercury astronaut, went around the Earth, was honored by Kennedy. And he writes this in his book and Confession, Leap of Faith. And this really sets the stage for our program this evening. But as I see it, our government is now trapped in a big box of old lies. It's going to take a lot of courage on the part of some future administration to say, quote, folks, our government has been lying to you all these years. Now we're going to come clean and tell you the real truth. As I said, that's going to take courage, something that doesn't seem to be in surface of in Washington these days, end of quote. So it's the drama behind the drama, not so much the positioning and pontificating of the government officials and scientists behind the scenes, but what this really means for the persons in the street, because this is all of us together, our contact story of the missing component, which is, of course, the spiritual consciousness which unites us with the other realms of cosmic intelligence. And Desiree was gracious enough to help illustrate some of the pictures or cosmograms that you've seen in our books that we've been able to bring forth in a special language from our counterparts who want us to celebrate. Really, this is the beginning of a major story. In fact, the Keys of Enoch mentioned the year 2004 is really the watermark of where the government will have to admit that the powers that be have occupied our oceans as well as certain sacred areas of our planet, which are strategic areas.
Right. So we feel that if the government this week, by the 24th, 25th, does come out with something, it'll, chances are, only go back to 2004, to the Nimitz experiment, or experience, I should say, that was off of San Diego, where for 3 days they saw some unusual scenarios of unidentified flying objects, or as the government calls it, UAPs, which is unexplained aerial phenomena. And one day, literally 2 F-18, all of you guys should know this from all the TV shows that are out there now, but the 2 F-18s were like literally encircling this unidentified flying object that looked like a tic-tac, like the white little balls that you eat and put in your mouth. That's what they called them. And that will be probably the start. They can't, it's so hard for them. We'll see. I mean, it would be great if they went back to Roswell, to the crash site with bodies that were found there, to other events like Kingman, Arizona, where really we were gifted. The United States government was gifted with a UFO that we could back engineer, and with aliens who helped us do that. I won't keep going on this until we come back to Alan for a little bit.
No, this is an important week in the history of civilization, and it's so perfect that Contact in the Desert is opening their doors right on June 24th, 25th. You know, June 24th, 1947 is when Kenneth Arnold saw 9 saucer-shaped craft over Mount Rainier, and that's where the term flying saucer came from Kenneth Arnold's landing then in Idaho saying, guess what I just saw? And all the news media came around. Then a week later, there was a crash in Roswell, which Desiree said, they're not even mentioning anything before 2004, the government. But it went from flying saucers to UFOs. In 1953 was the first time UFOs were used by Major Donald Kehoe, Donald Kehoe, who was one of the military people, said, look, there's something going on here, and let's get to the bottom of it. And so, actually, where's the quote from Truman in here? In 1950, Harry Truman, the first president who mentions the idea of flying saucers, UFOs, says in April 4th, 1950, and there was lots of flying over the White House and the Capitol at that time. He says, I can assure you that flying saucers, given that they exist, are not constructed by any power on Earth. This is from 1950. And now you hear Luis Elizondo saying, You know who Luis Elizondo is. He is really at the forefront of the disclosure movement. He worked for the Pentagon, part of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program that was funded for $22 million by Harry Reid. He left the Pentagon, although I don't think you ever really leave the Pentagon. Became part of a private organization called To the Stars. And now I think that organization has split up. That was run by Tom DeLonge. So Elizondo's out there being interviewed by 60 Minutes and CNN, and he's saying there's thousands of hours of footage, and it was on 60 Minutes. I love what Bill Whitaker, the reporter, says to him right at the beginning. He says, so tell me, Mr. Elizondo, are UFOs real? And Elizondo just gives him a blank stare and says, come on, Bill, we're already past that point now. The government has admitted UFOs are real, UAPs, and I'll talk about why they're called UAPs. But Elizondo's saying that these are not Russian, they're not Chinese, and they're not ours. And then in an article, he says they're not made from any country that we know. This is a very indirect way of saying that they're alien, but they won't say the alien word, because if that does, that game over, checkmate, we won. But they're just on the verge of saying the A word. So let's see what will come out this week or next week, the 24th, because when we do get that headline, I'll play what Linda Moulton Howe says about that in a second, we will have a breakthrough in our understanding of who we are. We've been lied to for 75 years or even longer. We've been controlled and manipulated. And it is a people's movement now. It is up to us to go out and demand the truth. I just talked to Danny Sheehan last week, who is Luis Elizondo's lawyer. And Danny Sheehan worked for the Pentagon Papers. He defended Karen Silkwood's case against the nuclear industry. He defended John Mack at Harvard when John Mack was said, you can't mention people being abducted. That's against Harvard's rules. And Danny said, no, this is freedom of speech, and John Mack got off. So Danny Sheehan is now defending Luis Elizondo because the Pentagon said, no, he never really worked for us, and that was an insult to a career intelligence officer, and he filed a whistleblower complaint with the Inspector General. And so Danny went to Washington this week to see if we can push this whole thing through on the part of a people's movement for UFO disclosure. It is time. I mean, we're not children. They say, no, you're not mature enough to know the truth. It's like they are treating us like we are infants, you know? And it might be against, you know, top security clearance, all that. No, they are so deep into their lies about covering up, and maybe they did cover up for a good reason after World War II. You know, people were a little traumatized, but let's come out with this. Let's have a people's movement. Let's have an open discussion, which is what's so beautiful about Contact in the Desert, because there's scientists there. There's people open to this reality that are willing to discuss our next level of evolution. This is why we're at such a crucial threshold in history. This is a turning point. When we know, and a lot of us already know, that we're not alone, this opens up a new technology. It opens up biology, like these beings are different than us, what we can learn about the true history of the cosmos. And obviously, whoever these creatures are, have gotten along well enough to get here and develop a technology that is interstellar space travel. So we can do that. And of course, there's forces like, you know, corporate interests that don't want that technology to come out because, like I say, they're not filling up their gas tank to get here. So what does that do to our economy? Well, it frees us. It frees us to be sovereign. If we all have a little hookup of free energy, then we're not enslaved. So this is the moment of freedom, of real freedom. And that is actually why I opened my book with this prologue by this abolitionist from 1844. This was people fighting for freedom in 18 before the Civil War, and this guy, William Ellery Channing, I had this quote on my wall for about 15 years. I said, where am I going to use this? And then when I was writing this book, it just popped out, and I said, this is where it goes, right at the introduction, right at the prologue to the introduction, because what Channing talks about is the situation we're in now, where we're opening up to this other level of mind. He says it so beautifully, there are seasons in human affairs of inward and outward revolution, when new depths seem to be opened up in the soul, when new wants are enfolded in multitudes, and a new and undefined good is thirsted for. There are periods when the principles of experience need to be modified, and when hope and trust and instinct claim a share in the guidance of human affairs, and when, in truth, to dare is the highest wisdom. So this is the time. We need to dare to trust our own subjective reality. We need to dare to know that, yes, my experience is real. So whatever's happened, whatever far-out experience, and maybe people will share a little bit, this is real. We can no longer really, it's great that the government is finally admitting some of the truth, but we are living in a subjective world. You know, Einstein did that revolution with relativity. He said, no, what happens to you is of value, and no one can argue with your experience. So that's really why we're all here. Kundalini Yoga is a great avenue to activate one's own inner knowing. And so this is some of the stories I've collected in this book where people are activating their own wisdom. This is a time for self-sovereignty. And so it's all up to us to come forward and start sharing stories and start going forward with the truth.
Without this, the great leap forward will be a great leap backwards. We cannot let this happen.
Right.
And so, as you have wisely said, from the great authors, thinkers, and scientists that you've interviewed, really a chorus of voices have come together, and we're all part of this great crescendo that human civilization is on the line. The indigenous elders know this. They are preparing their people for the star cultures. We must, in like measure, prepare humanity throughout the world to overcome the fear curtain and realize that we are part of a cosmic family, and we are being given a passport to the cosmos.
Yes, this is not about fear anymore. It's not about, do you believe? And that's a ridiculous question. Do you believe? This is not faith. This is fact. Either they exist or they don't. And a lot of us think they do or know that they do. I've seen them. So it's not about belief. It's about exploration. This is why we need the public conversation about what's really going on, what the government can reveal, what our own experiences entail, and we need to put this all out there. I just want to show this slide. There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world, which is maybe not that strong, is an idea whose time has come. That's Victor Hugo says that. So this is where some people say our evolution is, from apes to some guy sitting at a computer. That is a very limited view of reality. We are evolving towards being this center of creation. This is Alex Gray's theogony, and this is where we are. We are sitting in the infinitude of time and space right now, and we're about to wake up to that, because this is what's being activated, the full capacity of our brain to be logical and intuitive. You know, for the last 200 or 300 years, we've just been linear, mechanistic, Newtonian thinking, combustion engines, and if something came from outside that understanding of linear, rational reality, it was laughed at. But there's a whole intuitive side, a whole creative side to us, and this is where we're going. And this is what John Mack says. I'm just going to play a little bit of what he says. This is from an old... So John Mack is the Harvard psychiatrist who said that there are these beings, and he said he validated their story. People would come to John and say, please tell me I'm crazy that I'm having these experiences. And he would say something like, I have good news and bad news for you. The good and bad news is that you're not crazy and you're having these experiences, because this is what it seems like. But John makes a really good point here. I'll just play a little bit of this.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
That's us, the consciously impaired.
There seems to be some effort to get through to us. Difficult. God is dead. Nietzsche said so, blah, blah, blah. So it's not easy to get through. But it does seem as if there is a creative intelligence at work here trying to create some kind of a connection, reach us in some way.
That's why I put it as essay, even though it's like 20 years old. It was a talk, and this is the first time in print that his words are in a book, but he's still so contemporary.
Desiree and I had a chance to work with John in South Africa, and he said, we need to redefine scientific truth.
Mm-hmm. Right. I just want, and then you can give your part. I'll finish this, and then you jump in. But this is me and John out for some coffee, just to prove that I actually know him. I mean, but I like this. We're dealing with a phenomenon which violates our sense of reality, which operates in the gray area, no pun intended, between the physical world and the subjective. We're being asked to prove this by methods of physical science alone. That's been our problem. That's the problem with government. They don't know how to explain this. That's probably why they're not telling us what's going on, because they don't know what's going on. And but those methods, in his view, my view, will not yield its secrets until we discover other ways of knowing, until we tap in to the intuitive sense of ourselves, until we look at this phenomenon in terms of quantum physics, which brings us back to subjective reality. These are the other ways of knowing, until we go from collapsing the wave function into a concrete idea of reality and keep it fluid, to keep, the particle wave distinction. When you look at something, you collapse the wave function, it's a particle. Well, if you don't concretize it, if you keep it more abstract, it all becomes waves. It all becomes movement. Everything is moving. That's sort of what my lecture is about at Contact in the Desert, about how we need another way of knowing, another way of thinking, which is abstract thinking. And this is my lecture here at Contact in the Desert coming up. And I just want to show one more thing that puts the whole thing in perspective with my favorite lecturer and Serena's too, and someone who really, I feel, is one of the hardest working people for the last 40-something years in the field of ufology. She is in a field of all men, pretty much. She is at the top of that field because she's intelligent enough and knows how to put all the moving pieces together. And even she says this is like a 16-layer chess puzzle with all these moving parts, because we don't have the whole story. Like, everyone in this book has a piece, but it doesn't make the whole elephant. It only puts parts of that elephant together. So this is what, in an interview I did with Linda, this is what she says. What if we get that mind-cracking headline? So her refrain always is, we want that headline, we are not alone in the universe. That will completely crack open the minds of the planet. It'll be like Copernicus saying we're not the center of the universe. But it's even more extreme than that, because it means we are connected to these other consciousnesses. We are not alone in thought, in form, in reality, in non-conceptual awareness. We're not alone. So this is Linda. We're not alone in the universe. What does that mean for the population of the planet and for you and the history of civilization?
Finally, a truth. As simple as that. If you look back 5,000 years or 12,000 to Göbekli Tepe, and you look at the history of this planet, is demonstrably one in which Homo sapiens sapien is abused. Because from my point of view, if you are a civilization that evolves for 12,000 years, and you are always under the thumb of another intelligence that manipulates you, and that humans are never, ever talked to, communicated honestly, then we are today in the 21st century, 12,000 years later. We are an abused species. And part of this abused species is going out into the Milky Way galaxy and beyond without a single general human population knowing
Okay,
and it being told we're not alone.
once we do know, what does that mean? What is that? How does that shift our reality?
That we are finally being given respect enough for the truth of something so huge. We're not only not alone in the universe, and that I would stress there are other intelligences and they really care about us and they want us to get past this difficult time of lies, deception by other forces that have never told humans the truth. That is why we've got to have this revolutionary headline. And contact.
Oh, yes.
Making contact.
That was very nice.
Oh, it is a valuable read for everybody.
Thank you. Why is it valuable?
Because I know all these people. I know how difficult it is to get to facts, to get to a pattern in which it will help other human beings who have never, ever read any of our other books, seen any of our other films, been to any of our conferences. We have got to start where the news on TV and radio and newspapers begin to understand and start reporting what I have been reporting for 42 years, feeling like I have been pushing a huge 1,000-pound boulder up a hill. We are at the point where it might finally reach the top. Once that boulder starts going, the whole planet changes in relationship to this universe and the understanding that there's probably an infinite number of universes, infinite number of timelines, infinite number of dimensions, and that we, without consciousness, we're tearing into other consciousnesses and dimensions in World War II with the atomic bomb.
And we could now solve those issues and move forward as a real intelligent civilization that's meeting these beings on an equal footing. That's what I feel.
That would be my prayer.
Right, so we need that passion. This woman is leading the movement to truth and just the basics. Why is that so hard for people in government to tell us that we're not alone? Why is that such a big deal? You have a answer there? No, because it's been lied to. And you know, if you tell a lie and you tell another lie, it's so hard to undo the lie because they're trying to save face or whatever they're trying to do. But we're moving into a new world. Contact has been up worldwide. I talked to a Chinese ufologist. Chinese people are having this contact. Italy, actually, you know, there's so much going on, just not here, but everywhere. More sightings. Cheryl Costa just wrote a book about increased sightings around the world based on reported sightings. And those, I mean, I would say for every reported sighting, there's probably 50 or more that go unreported. So they're coming, ready or not. And that's why the subtitle of this book is Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence, because when we're prepared, we can meet them on an even playing field. And I'll just end this little part of the program by something I put at the end of this book by Joe Dispenza. And he's very open to the whole idea of other thought forms, other beings being here. But this is the key. Joe Dispenza, who's a friend of mine, he says, knowledge is a precursor to experience. The more knowledge you have, the more prepared you are for the event. So everything we're doing, everything we're saying, everything Victoria's doing is preparing us to meet the other on an even playing field. Not to worship, not to idolize, but to meet them, because the essence of who we are as souls incarnate in the infinite mind is equal to those beings. They may be more intelligent, they may have greater technologies, but they're not greater than us. And if we can meet them on that level playing field, we will actually be open to the secrets of the universe, maybe, or some of them for the first time in human history. This is a sea change for all of us. So I'm so happy we're all here sharing this moment. I mean, maybe in 100 years I'll say, what was it like when everyone woke up together? Or some of us. I mean, and that's what's happening. As this truth comes out, as people have more experiences, more potentials within the neural net of awareness start to open up. That's what knowledge does. It allows experience. And you can have experience without knowledge, but you don't know where to put it. But the more we talk about, the more we go to conferences, the more we have a place to put this undefined good, as what Channing said in that prologue, the undefined good, the new needs and wants of human civilization as we march into the future, an unknown future. The unknown is nothing to be feared. We only project what we know onto the future because it's unknown. But the unknown is, I think, it's full of wonder, possibility, and magic of something we have yet to conceive. So let's not go into fear. I don't think fear is that, but there's a lot of people said, should we be afraid of these things? No, this is a time of revolution, of possibility, and I'm really excited about this. I know I'm passionate, and Linda, Victoria, all of us are really doing our part to make something else possible for the human race. This is not so much about aliens or whatever that is, it's about us. It's about possibility. So that's why I want to bring up my good friends, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, because they've been living on the edge of the unknown. Dr. Hurtak had an experience in 1973 where he did a sacred mantra, and the doors to these other realities opened up. And he was taken, I know he doesn't like to say this publicly, I'll say it for him. He was taken with his body to these higher realms, to these Buddha-type realms or beyond, and came back with amazing knowledge. And this is our potential as we open these doors to new realities, is to bring back, to download new possibilities that will evolve our race. Each one of us is that creative potential right here. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, Alan. We serve humanity with your enthusiasm. Some of you may know our work, the film known as The Merkaba Voyage of a Starseed, and also Light Body, give the experience of swimming in hyperspace. The great challenge before us is not simply seeing other technologies from other worlds, but to understand the consciousness shift that must take place. It's very similar to what happened when the Spanish came to the New World. Many of the Indian or indigenous elders did not see the ships on the horizon because their mindset was not prepared to see something that was so unusual that was there upon the ocean of consciousness. And so we, in a certain sense, are the navigators of a whole new world. We are being prepared not only for cosmic contact, but also to be cosmic citizens growing up in a vast and awesome universe.
Right, so I want to start with just a few interesting slides, and then we're going to just talk with Alan like we've been doing, and hopefully with
I want Kimberly to read
as
some
well.
of her, because it is about going to another dimension, and her book, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, is really key to all this.
Right, but starting and going back to Contact in the Desert, this is one of the events that we did afterwards, which is go into the Integratron. And actually, we knew the maker of this device, which is George Van Tassel. It's out there by Landers, which is by Yucca Valley, north of Palm Springs. And just to say, this guy had a contact experience in the desert in the 1950s.
And he was able to record his documentation, which is the subject of a film that Alan participated in called Calling Our Earthlings. Mm-hmm. He was also visited by leading members of the scientific community because he worked with Howard Hughes, who was the boy genius who built the biggest airplane in 1942. But he wrote through his, quote, information track, the fact that we were being prepared for cosmic civilization.
Right, and he felt that we actually don't live long enough, because he felt if we did live longer, we would all be a little bit more enlightened and caring and able to help one another in a greater way. So he actually created this thing called the Integratron, which is now used as a sound chamber. We do meditations in there for rejuvenation, mostly to help heal one another and your body, but also as an anti-gravity time travel machine. We do actually on the day after the Contact event, Contact in the Desert, it's an outing that Victoria has arranged for us, and we go almost every year that we can to do this really powerful meditation in the sacred area. This is the video, Calling All Earthlings. We actually have copies back here because he really was someone who manufactured something connected with alien intelligence. And
I brought one of the advisors of President Kennedy out to meet him.
And he had the earliest Contact in the Desert gatherings in the 60s. People would show up at Giant Rock, thousands of people.
This was an indigenous holy area of meaning far before Western scientists and engineers made it a landing area.
Right, and the being he saw, so he was sleeping underneath the rock at the time of his contact, and for something just woke him up, and he walked outside, and first thing he saw was this being called Soganda, and it was walking to him, and then behind Soganda he saw this flying disc. And when he talked to Soganda, and who gave him information, he was supposedly 400 years old. And what's interesting, and this is something that I think is key to Alan's book, instead of just being nuts and bolts about extraterrestrials, it says, and we say it, and I think Grant Cameron says it as well, once you've seen a UFO, you don't even have to be talking to the alien from them. You are entangled. Now, this is a quantum physics term, but once you're connected, you are always connected. And we had a great gathering in Sedona, which has been open since May of last year, for Alan's book. We had 250 people at Unity Church, and it was fabulous. But we also had Travis Walton. How many people know of Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky?
Right.
Okay, but he said something at this event. Alan made him say it. You know how Alan does that, right? He's fabulous. Anyway, he said that in addition to his big event, that the Pillar of Light, that he kind of got caught in and was gone for a week, he remembers 30 minutes of it, that was 45 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I mean, we all thought it was
1975.
But after that, he actually was I think it was Burbank, that there was an event, and he and his son were there, and it was some sort of UFO event they were talking about years and years ago. And coming out of that event, over LA, they actually saw a UFO. It was really low. It was over the car. You know what he said to his son? Don't get out of the car.
But it was the first time he acknowledged another sighting than the original one in 1975.
And he said he's seen a few others in Arizona. And the idea is, once you've seen them, once you've connected consciously on any level like this, it is entangled, it's a non-local reality we live in, you are always somewhat connected, or they're always around or can be around. So he confirmed that as amazing. Someone who never talked about that, and he was kind of told not to say too much because his event was so profound.
No, he didn't want to come out and say like, oh, he's had other experiences, because it'd make his original experience look a little weird.
What night was it?
Sorry,
2:00 in the morning.
It's okay, we don't
and,
Yeah, we'll stop that. This is his too shaky.
Okay.
So besides the acceleration going on with sightings, the American government has been studying the power of the mind or consciousness for well over 40-some years. And I and Desiree have had the privilege of working with some of the best mathematicians and physicists who've studied not only the information track of those who have been in alleged contact, but also those who are making contact. And when Uri Geller was studied at SRI, which was connected with Stanford University some years ago, an actual spaceship appeared over the SRI FX facility. I detail this in our new book called Mind Dynamics in Space and Time, which is the real X-Files of the government, over 600 pages of documentation of the top scientists who were there to disprove the power of the mind in contact with higher intelligence. The opposite came through. We actually manifested the gifts that each of us have without technology, without AI, through spiritual vibratory frequencies to reach into the cosmos and make contact.
And this is something that Alan actually has been teaching recently, remote viewing, because why is this important? Well, not only can we see and know things and Russell Targ, who's famous for this as well, talks about precognition, but actually the aliens are able to do it as well. So it's been something we're told we can't do, right? Everyone, like if they see little people in their room, their mother and father say, you're crazy, stop talking about it. We have these greater abilities, and we are opening to them now. We call it the Great Awakening.
Well, I just want to say that's what is so gifted about Kimberly's work is that she can look at people and know what's going on inside their body. Do you want to say anything about that, how you're tuning into the higher vibrations, Kimberly? You can talk into the microphone. Just something.
Hi, everybody.
Because-
Yeah, I am a advanced remote reviewer. I scan people's bodies. I was gifted as a child. I'm what you call a star seed. Some people call me a hybrid.
I'd call you a hybrid.
There's, people that are here now. The ETs are here. I mean, this is just, it's nothing that I think is unheard of. I think to me it's just common to know. They're here. We're here. So basically, it's understanding that we're multidimensional beings, and beings are here. So in my book called Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, which is out right now everywhere, I talk about this and talk about miraculous healings, how we can have that, and we all, I feel, can be open to remote viewing and seeing and raising our consciousness to the highest level of frequencies.
Your work is helping people raise their vibration.
Yes, I'm just going to finish with that. So yes, I'm here, and other people I think are here that help people to raise. We're here to help you in the next 5 to 10 years. Our time here is limited, though, because of so much global warming and environmental exposure and toxins that are going on in our world. But I do feel that we're in a good time, space right now to, like right now, the book that Alan wrote, which is a must read, is going to help you advance yourself to understanding why he's and why all the people that are in the book needed to get out their information, and why books like mine and other people are writing things right now for you to learn about how to
Because we're here
be
to
more,
awaken.
let me finish.
Sure.
Be more in the fifth dimension and beyond. So beings like ETs are in the higher dimensional frequency, as you know. But it's not just about they're coming here to help us, not scare you.
Right, exactly.
I have something in here if you'd like me to read it to you that I wrote.
Yes, please. Because her book is about how we're going to shift this vibration, and the Hurtaks will also talk about that at the rest of their presentation. But we are shifting our awareness to these new laws of creation, the fifth dimensional views of.
Why don't you talk, because you're
No, go ahead. I'm waiting. No, go ahead.
This is part of an avalanche of popular writings as well as scientific discourse that's taking place with a new generation of young engineers, people in the film business, social media, recognize that there's something that's peculiar that's taking place. There's an inner awakening. It's very profound. It goes beyond words.
But the vibrational part, which you shifted in your meditation, that's key to our time.
Absolutely. It's the heightening of the vibratory frequencies. And
So
that's the key as we reach out as biotransducers, or to use fancy words, as we begin to realize we are pillars of light, we are pillars of communication, to recognize what the ancients and the indigenous always knew, that we were in constant communication if we wanted to be.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So many people here and some people out there that are listening right now, some people already know a lot of the things we're talking about, and some people it might be new. So some people may not know what star seeds and crystals are. They're advanced souls that come in and are here. This is we are all channels of information And so this is something that I have downloaded since I was young and coming in and to give you some information. So it's saying this: we live in a multidimensional world with many multidimensional beings. Love is multidimensional. The ETs are multidimensional. We view love at every angle. We can choose to have love at the highest awareness, and we don't have to suffer through this. We can be healed. We can have beautiful multidimensional beings. Our souls can live in a multidimensional world. We can be immortal, infinite, divine. We don't have to suffer. We can be healed. We can have and be born into a world and bring in the star seeds and the crystals, move out of a third-dimensional body. We can be the angelic light being that we're meant to be and have this beautiful earth plane. We can be complete in this mission that's supposed to happen and unfold in a purpose of helping humanity live in this beautiful way. We are ready for the ascension, involving raising the energy into the highest earth plane, the vibrational frequency. We are ready to shift into the consciousness with the highest heart-based conscious universe. When we are open to this beautiful energy, we will see the 1111, which triggers an awakening of the star seeds, the crystals, the beautiful beings, the ETs. They are ready. We are ready for this beautiful awakening. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And speaking of the work that you've done and also what we have done with sacred geometry and sacred writing, I want all of us to take a closer look now at the screen.
Yeah, and I was going to say the title of our chapter in Alan's book is Extraterrestrials and Multidimensional Non-Local Reality. So it ties in perfectly,
right in
yes.
with this, because we're all moving to another level. You can feel the quickening. You can feel that vibratory rate in our bodies.
So I want to introduce just a few slides more, and this is from an event that took place south of Mexico City to a man named Carlos Diaz in an area that has a pyramid there called Tepoztlan, and what he saw was this light ship. And then if we can play it, I'm going to play the video. You want to say a few words, Dr. Hurtak, first? Or?
My former student who became a very famous journalist, Jaime Maussan, was able to supply Carlos with a movie camera, and what you're going to see now is a few minutes of this golden spherical form taking on many shapes.
So it starts with Dr. Hurtak talking, but then you'll hear a unique experience because people, say, okay, they've seen a UFO or they've seen an alien walking. He actually had a real close encounter with the...
And these are plasma forms. They're not really physical.
Correct.
Of this
Examined by
dimension.
the University of Mexico. There were no metal parts, just a series of plasma layers.
So let's listen to the video. It's short. Ooh.
What causes this strange luminosity? We still don't know. For Professor James Hurtak, the Carlos Diaz experience brings together the scientific and spiritual perspectives of the future and delivers a key to an interdimensional physics.
Carlos Diaz documents are very important because they show a different category of intelligence, what could be called the bioplasmic form of intelligence, that is even beyond the extraterrestrial, which is using metallurgical or physical spacecraft.
Is the Carlos Diaz ship of light an interdimensional gate, a projection from a parallel universe, an alien spacecraft? Why does it appear so frequently over the village of Tepoztlan? Is there any connection to the ancient cultures of Central America? Only the experience of a simple young man from Mexico might be the answer to all these questions.
The first time he invited me to go consciously into a ship, I saw my friend getting in first. He went through this fog-like light When more than half of his body was inside of the light, his body got sucked into the object. So what I did first is that I put one hand into the light to feel, and to my surprise, it went through the light, and inside I felt a nice temperature. When I took my hand out, I was very relieved to see it was still in one piece. So that gave me the confidence to walk in. And when I had my body halfway inside the object, I was sucked into it too. But once you are into it, there is nothing you can see. You just see yellow light all over. You don't feel your toes, you don't feel the floor, but the sensation is very peculiar, because you feel very peaceful with a lot of love within you. Once, when I came out of the yellow light, I realized I was not at the same place, but I was in a big cave. It had stalactites and stalagmites, and between them I saw several sculptures and ornaments, which were of the art of the Maya culture. This big cave was the place where the ship hovered, and there was a kind of path we walked through, and we came to another cave, and I saw there many people who were very kind to me and greeted me, very nice people. But the particular thing about this cave was that there were 7 egg-like spheres of yellow light. After we got to this place, my friend stuck his hand into one of the eggs and took out a small ball of light, also yellow, and said that this little ball could project a ray that would touch my 7th vertebrae in the middle of the spine, and it would take all the information which is in my neurons. Once I was there in this place, he invited me to go into one of those spheres of light, or eggs of light. When I did so, I realized that all the yellow color changed, and it was not yellow anymore, but it was a scene of a forest from the air. It was like if I was flying, and then I saw on each of my sides a wing, the wing of an eagle, and I realized that what I was looking at was the information from an eagle, his memories that they had stored into this egg of light.
And so that is basically showing you that some of these intelligences, and again, there's varieties of intelligence out there. Some look like us, some don't look like us, some have light ships, some have metal ships, but that a lot of them are working with almost a higher consciousness physics in that sense.
Also, it represents interspecies communication, the fact that he was connected with the mind of the eagle. The symbol, of course, is very dramatic. In many indigenous communities on the totem poles, representing the different levels of evolution. You see at the top the face of a bird or an eagle. We represent now this quest that is taking us into space, but at the same time, as Alan said earlier, at the time of the atomic explosion, we sent the wrong signal. Now is the opportunity for we as a collective humanity to gather together really the fruits of the great traditions and understand the gathering of what is taking place. Humanity is being brought together to take a great leap forward, realizing that we have the opportunity through our roots of consciousness to go beyond just the machine age and the age of violence into the age of synthesis.
Yeah, we were talking about this at lunch today with Victoria, and you know, the atomic bomb, whatever fractures the atomic explosion on that level, I think ripples throughout time and space. And that is what alerted those beings to show up at Roswell, first of all, because those were the people that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were the Air Force, the planes, and the people that were stationed in Roswell. So we have to be really careful with how we move forward, and we need to put away the weapons, and we need to realize that, we can't just do these reckless acts like throwing your garbage or polluting the planet or blowing up atomic weapons. That's like awakens the whole universe to like something's going on here. It's like, we may be a little planet, but it's like if you ever had a little splinter in your finger, it just upsets the whole body. We're the splinter in the finger of the greater consciousness.
Like in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the building of the sacred mound of contact, Carlos Diaz was connected with the area of Tepoztlan, which is known for its special pyramids. And these are sacred areas where communication was known to have taken place and does take place. As we know, the elders in Mexico are gathering for what they believe to be the remanifestation of a cosmic hierarchy. It's in Mexico, in Tulum, that I had another experience some years ago where I was singing the ancient mantras in Sanskrit and Hebrew. And as I was singing and chanting, suddenly a force of light appeared around my body. I was standing next to a pyramid in Tulum. And the photographer was taking a picture of his wife and captured in a split second the light shield that was placed around my body. Many of you are familiar with this picture. The bottom line is there is a language that goes with the sighting. It's not just taking pictures like we have Japanese cameras. We're going to see these pictures. The government is going to say, oh, they exist. No, our work is to have the contact within first. We must contact our inner spiritual essence.
It's a shift in consciousness. We need to stop.
And then we can go forward in celebration and unity.
Right, and so as Alan was saying also, we need to start becoming more peaceful, more understanding of how we're not separate. I mean, this is what's been talked about in the East for generations, but and also in the West. But who has been doing it? That's the real question. I mean, there's the powers that be that do blow up nuclear weapons and other types of things all the time.
Stanton Friedman used to say, who wants to be friends with a race of animals whose favorite pastime is tribal warfare? And this is what we've been doing for the last 10,000 years. And it has to end, and, it's up to us.
And we also don't realize how powerful even our own consciousness thoughts are. One of the things that we talk about often, and also is prevalent in Alan's book, again, is the idea of consciousness, that what we put out, the intention of contact. And we would rather have contact, as Dr. Hurtak had this more of a Merkaba experience with higher levels of beings, but even just whatever we put out as a civilization, what we put out as an individual is all key. And this is one of Alan's slides, actually. Go ahead.
Looking for the consciousness in the brain is like looking for the announcer inside the radio. We are receiving frequencies. We're picking up the signal of this soul that we are in this hardware through the software of the personality, but we are not necessarily the body. We have a body, of course, but we are the signal coming from the source of creation. So if you think you're your body, then that really limits what we are. But if we think we're the body and all this amazing possibilities that we're connected to the infinitude of creation, then so much more opens up to us.
And that's what these tankas are all about. Like, this is, you can see it in the room around you and other places. You have the Buddha that's tuned in, but he's projecting and receiving, we'll say, from all the different realms. And I know in the Eastern tradition, a lot of this is all within us. But in actuality, we believe that it's within and without, so that the Buddha does know that there's many realms of intelligence, and he has experienced other worlds and other spaces. And basically, he, in his own mindset, pulls it all together. So that's extremely important. Finally, this is really who we are, and this is who we are discovering that we are. So I believe there's a greater awakening taking place all over the planet, that the veils between us and our higher presences or other realms is getting thinner and thinner, and people are really having these amazing, great awakenings.
On the left side of the screen, we see the multi-levels of minds or perceptual knowledge that we represent as a synthesis. On the right-hand side, the vibratory bodies that we have, measured by German and Russian parapsychologists. Years ago in Novosibirsk, we recognized that the corona discharge around our head, around our body, is just an illustration of a larger part of the light body that is inherent within us. We come out of the light into physical manifestation, incarnation. Ultimately, we'll go back into the greater light.
Right. And so basically, even though it looks like, we can expand out, we can expand outward ad infinitum. I mean, there's no limitation to that. And not only do we have this head, but we have heads in other realities if we so choose to use them. And that's what even some alien intelligences are doing.
So it's ironic that the foundations of Western civilization of the saints that have halos, golden halos, around their heads. I mean, this is knowledge that was known to the mystics of all great traditions, that there is the ability to raise consciousness and to open the mind as a vibratory field.
So in addition to just extraterrestrial vehicles, we believe there's Merkaba and ultra-terrestrial realities. And this is like one aspect, you've probably seen it by many people, of the Merkaba reality. I just want to show you, though, what has actually appeared on top of the Pentagon. And when I first saw this, I'll just turn there, I think, for a second. Oops. Before I start the video. Basically, I saw this on the internet. Maybe some of you did too. And, we thought, it's just like a phenomenon, nothing really big, and we don't accept it. But our good friend Jaime Maussan from Mexico didn't stop with just looking at the picture. He went to interview people who had actually seen this. And this is taken by two guys driving a car, 4 a.m, December 2018.
December 19th.
Yeah, 2018. And in addition to that, he found other people. He found a photographer who was out in the middle of the cemetery, Arlington Cemetery, and he also got this. And then there was another guy who was just driving the car. It's 4 a.m, who also saw this. So let's take a look at this, because really they are also trying to tell us, as we've been saying, to put away our weapons of war. And Alan, is it moving now? Yeah. Okay, great. It's Alan's computer. So what's interesting about this is not only is it a tetrahedron, which is really one of the fundamental particles of our universe, and that's why even the Great Pyramid, which is a pyramid, not a tetrahedron, but it's very similar. This is really the photography, and they were like throwing the camera back and forth. But in addition to this, actually in 2009, a similar vehicle also appeared over the Kremlin, and you're going to see that in a few minutes. So. And there's the Kremlin, and this is what was appearing in 2009 over the Kremlin. And
it's like a pyramidal capstone.
And more recently, also, Jeremy Corbell supposedly released some information from I believe it's the Navy, and it was also triangular in form.
These are aspects of the Merkaba body, too.
Now, there's a big controversy saying, it's all our government. And, yes, we back-engineered vehicles, and some of the things that people see, in fact, Alan and I were out on posse grounds in Sedona, and we saw Elon Musk's Starlink.
Oh, yeah.
That was an amazing phenomenon, but it's still from us, and you can recognize that. I don't believe that these are from us, even though it's very controversial right now because everyone wants to say, it's us. But even if it is us, where do we get it from? We basically got it from back engineering other spacecraft.
So those of you who have my book, The Keys of Enoch, published in 1973, realize the very first picture is the pyramidal capstone seen over the Earth. Again, look very carefully, you will see a multicolored pyramidal capstone. The scroll of Esther, representing the feminine energy of understanding that has to go with that sacred geometry. And the pyramidal capstone with the multicolors represents all people coming together, realizing the sacred geometry of the carbon atom, which we are from in the physical nature of our body, our incarnation, uses this as the central geometric design. It's the most essential primary geometric form for life on Earth and in the universe. So it's the one that would appear in the sky saying, hey, you guys, put the pieces of the platonic solids together. The time of the capstone has come. Your role has come to be beacons of light. And note, the superpowers of Russia and the United States better wake up and not play military games, because we're here to start a whole new chapter. And we're going to help the indigenous people, the women, the children that have been neglected, to recognize that they also have a role in the cosmic frontier.
So this is just a prelude to what we're going to be experiencing the next years to come. I mean, there's 75 years of history, there's 200 years of history, but look at Contact in the Desert, 25th to the 28th, if you want to get the whole layout of the history and possibilities and where we're going and the science, and of course get my book and get the Hurtak's book and get Welcoming to the Fifth Dimension, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension. Kimberly's going to just read
Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, Discovering Your Soul's Path to Healing.
Right, so read this part, and we're going to do a little meditation, but we just want to sort of wrap it all up in a sense. But go read this, and then we'll
So
go
we're
into a
in
meditation.
closing right now?
No, what do you have? No, tell us. We don't have to.
We're
Go
going to
ahead.
do this, and then we're going to do a meditation?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm also here on Sunday doing a 50-minute meditation, if you just, So, so I believe that his book is amazing. And we are moving into the fifth dimension. And even though things do seem like sometimes we're stuck in that third dimensional frequency, I do believe that we are absolutely moving into the ascension. We are in that energy. So this is something that I channeled in the fifth dimension, Awakening Fifth Dimension book. So let's take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through our mouths. Inhale through our nose. Exhale through our mouths. Inhale through our nose. Exhale through our mouths. This is called the magical fifth dimensional peace prayer. And this is about the peace, the peaceful energy of going in to the fifth dimensional cosmic light, love, light, peace, joy, and abundance. I love being in the magical fifth dimensional frequency of love and peace, where we all are pure love and light and peace. The existence is non-judgmental and awareness. We are beyond all time and space, and all love is in the perfect place. In this magical fifth dimension, the humans can all do and all be, and thereby find the miraculous healing, love, light, joy, peace, and abundance. The love is of the omnipresent, is centered around all civilizations to have one underlying focus of peace and service. Love is simple and easy in the fifth dimension. I love being in the fifth dimension. I feel amazing in the fifth dimension. The world is moving. It's spinning. It's gigantic. It's organic. It's global. But we are healing. We are feeling the love, the light, the joy, the abundance, because we are multidimensional. We are dimensional beings. Our mind wants to live in this existence. When we are living in the omnipresence existence, gentle, safe, pure, respectful, with the flow of the spirit guides, guiding us to be strong. We love being with our angels, building a daily intimacy with the God, divine frequency. The divine feminine is here for us too. We love feeling this peace, love, safe, and abundance. Therefore, taking our hand and putting it over our heart chakra, which is in the middle of our chest. Taking a deep breath, inhale and exhale. Inhale through our nose. Exhale through our mouth. I am healed.
I am healed.
In the fifth dimension.
In the fifth dimension.
Namaste.
Namaste. So
thank you.
Feel that energy. We'll just stay in that place of healing, of fifth dimensional presence. And just see your crown open up to the higher heavens as those waiting for us to awaken are there, present for us to meet them, to start making contact.
And we see the vibratory nature of all life, particularly within every cell of our body, as a little jewel coming alive. We feel the vibratory field from our feet, through our solar plexus, through our heart, our throat, our third eye, our higher mind, in the crown of light, as in ancient times with the saints and avatars, also in the present time where each of us becomes a citizen of Mother Earth. We feel the great vibration.
And we also become a citizen of the cosmos. And we soar with our inner nature into greater realms. Yes, we can visit other planets, or we can ride upon the sky within ships of light, or we can go into the 5th dimension, the 8th dimension, even the 24th dimension, in greater realities, in new realities for some, or part of the cosmic memory for others. And so with this, let us put the energy of love, as Kimberly said, out to the planet. Let us start with the vibration of the Om, and then add to it the 3 Shantis, which is peace, peace, peace. So we would do Om, Shanti, 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 Om. And again,
Om Shanti 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 Om.
Om Shanti 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 Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om.
Om
Shanti 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 Om. Om Shanti 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 Om. Om Shanti 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 Om. Om Shanti 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 Om.
And as we connect the eye of the flesh with the eye of the heart, with the eye of the mind, we receive what is known as the triple power of realizing the inner triad, the spiritual essence that is expanding. And as we expand now into a whole new realm of consciousness, global consciousness, and beyond that, cosmic consciousness, we add to the end of the mantra the ancient Hebrew Aramaic words Ein Sof, which means the limitless light, the superluminal light that now we're going to begin to use in the advancement of human civilization.
Yes, and that term is Ein Sof, and the idea is the Ein is no soft limit. So there's no separation amongst us here. There's no separation amongst anything in the universe and us. We know this from remote viewing. And there is no separation between us and higher realms of inner and outer peace.
And so as we feel the greater light come down around our body, we're going to add to the Shanti, 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 Om, Ein Sof, the added expression of acceleration. And as we add the Ein Sof, we're going to feel our opening of our mind from the 6th seal to the 7th to even the 8th, where we see these spheres of light, and ultimately we will see faces within these spheres of light, or cosmic realities that will spell out a whole new language that is happening through sacred geometry and sound. So follow us. Again, we're going to sing and say this, as you will, 7 times for the 7 chakras or seals within our human body, our human tabernacle being opened. Om Shanti 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 Om Ein Sof. 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 Om Shanti 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 Om Ein Sof.
Om Shanti Shanti Om.
Light strikes the crown chakra, and we begin to see within our mind's eye the spinning blue-green planet of Mother Earth. We begin to see around a whole variety of life, forms of cosmic intelligence, preparing us for the day of graduation. And the day has come.
And let's bring in the divine feminine, the prayers of Mary, the higher angels.
Holy Mother Mary, of God, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mother Mary, O God, pray for us now and forever. Amen. Holy, Holy Mother Mary, Divine Feminine, pray for us now and forever.
This is the Hebrew prayer, Kadosh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hashem, Hashem, Hashem.
And here the Shekinah, here the Sophia,
And the Shakti.
the Shakti come together.
Ask Alan to give us that.
And so as we
expression.
put together the sacred vocabulary, the sacred mantras of the Divine Mother, completely overlooked in many instances, that wells up within our heart out of greater compassion, let us put these together.
We can say the three different phases of the divine feminine, the Shekinah, the Saraswati, and the
Sophia.
Sophia from the Greek. So let's say those three mantras of this divine feminine. Shekinah, Saraswati,
Sophia.
Sophia. Shekinah, Saraswati, 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 Sophia. And just let that vibration sink in, because we are birthed out of the Great Mother, the Mother as feminine, as God, as being, as creatrix of all that is. Just breathe in for a second in silence. And breathe it out. Dr. Hurtak is going to give us a high note that will open the crown chakra and bring in more light. You stand up and just bring in, and I think Chuck will enjoy this too.
This is the vibration of the Most High God, Elyon. I'm going to sing it 7 times and feel the vibratory system through your body, being raised on high, realizing the unity of the divine and the human family coming together. Here is the moment of the leap of faith, the leap of science, the leap of all humanity to sing a language of ascension. As we put on the crown of glory, as we understand in the prayer of the Vater Unser, our Father, as we understand in the prayer of the Hail Mary, as we understand in the ancient prayers from the indigenous of the Divine Mother of the Earth, in the Sanskrit Durga, in the different languages, we see we are all being vibrated into a new language that the ancients knew was at the beginning of creation, the language of sacred vibrations out of which we came and to which we will return. May this sacred language of all sacred melodies and expressions of the divine bring us into a rapture of going into the 5th dimension and reclaiming our spiritual birthright, that we are sons and daughters of eternity. And in so doing, may the next page of the book of life that Saint John the Divine called the Bibliothesoes, the book of biology, be lifted, that we may see under our flesh the spirit and the glory.
So let us go out into the world full of wonder and joy, possibilities, as we reach up, as those out there reach down, and we start making contact with the greater realities, the greater brothers and sisters of light that are waiting for us to wake up at this time. And so we can say, Kimberly, would you want to finish? Let's go. Blessings. We say, Amen, 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 and Amen. Thank you for being here. A little celebration of life.
We have books for sale in the back
Those
table.
of you,
Alan's books especially.
I want to say this in due respect for our brother, Alan. We're honoring you. For those of you who are not aware of some of our work behind the scenes, we have the book on the real X-Files available in the back, Mind Dynamics in Space and Time.
And order Awakening into the Fifth Dimension. It's you can order it now, pre-order, because this is where it all began, in the fifth dimension with Kimberly. So thank you all for being here. We're going to be in Ojai on Sunday. Join us in Ojai. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Gina and Terry and Serena and everyone. It's fun to
And
be
some of
in
you may
Victoria.
have personal things you want to share with Desiree and I. Will be here at the front for the next 20 minutes.
And thank you, Rama. Thank you, Guru Jagat. Thank you for allowing us to be in this space. This is a sacred space. It is a holy space. And that allowed us to go even further in these mantrams because we've been in this space. Thank you all. I'm Alan Steinfeld. Thank you. All my old friends and new friends, my good friends. Thank you. Gina Salvati, thank you.